The lady from the church asked me to pray for her husband's soul. I said, "Of course. When did he die?" And she answered, "Tomorrow." No child should die alone. That's why I decided to let my son invite some friends over. Someone started having a coughing fit at my workplace. The problem is that I work alone in a morgue. Never knock on your door from the inside at dawn. The devil can knock on the outside. These macabre stories and others that can't be told on the channel, you'll see in the Cursed ebook. The link is in the comments. Buy it now. It was the first directive that greeted everyone who dared to step through the camp's rusted gates. The sign was worn, its edges frayed, and the ink seemed to bleed into the splintered wood. At first glance, it appeared to be a mere formality, a bureaucratic obstacle meant to ensure compliance. But beneath its innocuous veneer, a sinister undertone whispered warnings of things unseen. There were murmurs among the new hires about the sign. "It's just a formality," some said. Others believed it was a relic from bygone times, an echo of a past long forgotten. The camp was picturesque, dense forests, clear lakes, and cabins that seemed to promise an idyllic escape from city life. It was the perfect setting for a summer camp, or so it seemed. As the days passed, Emily and her colleagues noticed oddities. The camp's staff would occasionally disappear for hours, returning with expressions clouded by unease. The children who attended the camp spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously whenever the rules were mentioned. A stormy night brought with it a sense of foreboding. Emily was alone in the main office, and the wind howled like a pack of hungry wolves. The sign caught her eye again. She had been too busy with other tasks to pay it much attention, but tonight the rules seemed to beckon her. The rules were cryptic. They spoke of curfews, of never wandering the woods after dark, and of maintaining a strict silence during certain hours. But there were other rules, ones that were less clear. They mentioned the watchers and the sacrifices, terms that made Emily's skin crawl. The watchers, the rules explained, were beings that could only be seen from the corner of one's eye. They were described as spectral entities, their presence marked by a sudden drop in temperature and an oppressive silence. Emily laughed it off, attributing it to overactive imaginations and old campfire stories. But as night fell, she couldn't shake the feeling of being observed. Shadows danced at the edge of her vision, and the temperature in the office plummeted inexplicably. The staff's behavior grew increasingly erratic. They moved with deliberate slowness, their eyes darting as if searching for something they couldn't quite find. The children's laughter, once bright and carefree, became tinged with the nervousness that sent shivers down Emily's spine. One evening a child went missing. The camp's staff scoured the grounds, their voices frantic, but their movements methodical, almost rehearsed. Emily's heart raced as she realized that the missing child was her own niece. The realization that something was terribly wrong hit her like a cold wave. The missing child was never found. Instead, the camp's staff returned with an unsettling calmness. The authorities were called, but they found no evidence of foul play, no trace of the child's presence. It was as if she had vanished into thin air, Emily's sense of dread grew palpable. The rules had warned her about the sacrifices, but what did they mean? The more she pondered, the more she saw the connection between the rules and the strange occurrences at the camp. The staff's vacant expressions, the children's fearful whispers all seemed to fit a pattern. As the days wore on, Emily's nightmares became more vivid. She dreamt of shadowy figures lurking in the woods, of whispers carried on the wind, and of a presence that seemed to breathe down her neck. Each morning she awoke in a cold sweat, convinced that the camp was hiding something horrifying. The tension among the staff was unbearable. They spoke in hushed tones, their conversations cut short when anyone approached. The camp's once beautiful grounds now seemed ominous, the trees whispering secrets that Emily couldn't quite decipher. One night, driven by a mix of fear and desperation, Emily ventured into the woods despite the rules. The darkness swallowed her whole, and the deeper she went, the colder it became. Her breath came in ragged gasps, and she could hear the distant echo of footsteps somewhere between reality and a nightmare. She stumbled upon a clearing where the trees were strangely arranged in a circle. In the center was a stone altar, its surface smeared with a dark, sticky substance. The air was thick with an unnameable dread, and Emily felt as though she were being watched by unseen eyes. As she backed away from the altar, Emily heard a chilling whisper in the wind. "You were warned." The voice was neither male nor female, but a disembodied sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The next day, Emily tried to leave the camp, but her attempts were thwarted. The gates, which had once been ajar, were now locked tight. Panic set in as she realized that the camp was trapping its inhabitants, sealing them within its cursed grounds. The staff's behavior became more ritualistic. They performed strange ceremonies at night, their chants echoing through the forest. Emily could hear the words, but they were a jumbled mess of sounds that made her head ache. The children, who had once been playful, now sat in silent rows, their faces blank and expressionless. It was as if their spirits had been drained, leaving only hollow shells behind. The camp had taken more than just physical presence, it had stolen their very essence. The sacrifices mentioned in the rules were now all too real. Emily began to understand that the camp was feeding off the fear and anguish of those who stayed, using them to sustain its malevolent existence. Each missing child, each vanished staff member, was a part of the camp's insidious hunger. As the days turned into weeks, Emily's sense of time became distorted. The camp's eerie atmosphere warped reality, making it difficult to discern day from night. The shadows lengthened and twisted, creating a labyrinth of darkness that ensnared anyone who ventured too far. Desperation drove Emily to confront the camp's leaders. She demanded answers, but their eyes were cold and unfeeling. They spoke of ancient pacts and forgotten rituals, of promises made long ago that bound them to the camp's dark will. One leader revealed the horrifying truth. The camp was a living entity, an ancient force that thrived on human fear and suffering. It had ensnared countless souls over the years, drawing them into its twisted web of control. Emily was but the latest in a long line of victims. The rules she learned were not merely guidelines, but chains designed to keep the inhabitants under control. They dictated every aspect of their lives, from the times they could leave their cabins to the moments they had to remain silent. Defying them meant invoking the camp's wrath. Emily's attempts to warn others fell on deaf ears. The staff, consumed by the camp's influence, dismissed her concerns as paranoia. The children, their spirits broken, could only stare vacantly as the camp's insidious grip tightened around them. The once beautiful surroundings now seemed like a nightmarish landscape. The trees appeared to close in on her, their branches like gnarled fingers reaching out to ensnare her. The lakes, once serene, now reflected a distorted, malevolent version of reality. At night, the camp's true nature was revealed. Emily could hear the cries of those who had come before her, their voices echoing through the forest like a mournful symphony. The sound was both haunting and maddening, a reminder of the suffering that had taken place. The camp's sinister presence seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. Shadows danced with malicious intent, and the air grew heavy with a sense of impending doom. Emily could feel the camp's hunger, an insatiable force that sought to consume everything in its path. One night, Emily stumbled upon a hidden chamber beneath the camp's main office. The walls were lined with old, brittle pages that detail the camp's dark history and the rituals performed to keep it satisfied. The texts spoke of sacrifices and ancient pacts that bound the camp's inhabitants to its will. As she read the texts, Emily realized that the camp was more than just a place. It was a living nightmare, a malevolent force that thrived on human suffering. The rules were not just guidelines, but an essential part of the camp's ritualistic control. The chamber's atmosphere was suffocating. The walls seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. Emily could feel the camp's presence closing in on her, its hunger growing stronger as it sensed her defiance. With a final burst of courage, Emily tried to destroy the texts. She set them ablaze, hoping to sever the camp's connection to its dark rituals, but the flames quickly grew wild, fueled by an unnatural force that seemed to feed off the destruction. The fire roared, and the camp's true nature was revealed. The once hidden figures emerged from the shadows, their forms twisted and grotesque. They were the Watchers, the beings described in the rules, and they moved with an unsettling grace. Emily's screams were swallowed by the night as the Watchers closed in on her. The camp had claimed another victim, and her fear and anguish would be added to the countless others who had been ensnared by its malevolent grip. In the aftermath, the camp stood silent once more. The fire had burned itself out, leaving behind only smoldering ruins. The texts were reduced to ash, but the camp's dark presence remained a testament to its insidious power. The gates were reopened, but few dared to enter. The camp's reputation had spread, and its name became synonymous with terror. Those who had heard the stories spoke of a place that thrived on fear, a place where the rules were not just warnings, but a means of control. Emily's disappearance became a cautionary tale, a warning to those who would dare to challenge the camp's authority. Her story was told in hushed tones, a reminder of the price paid by those who ignored the rules. The camp remained a dark and foreboding place, its true nature hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy. The staff, now more secretive than ever, continued their roles, bound by the same ancient pacts that had ensnared Emily. The camp's influence lingered, a palpable force that repelled those who came too close. The children who had once been victims now seemed to be part of the camp's dark machinations. Their eyes were vacant, their spirits broken, and they moved with a resigned acceptance of their fate. The camp had claimed them, body and soul. As the years passed, the camp's legend grew, becoming a part of local folklore. The stories of its dark rituals and malevolent presence were passed down from generation to generation, each telling more chilling than the last. Yet, despite the warnings, some still sought to uncover the truth. They were drawn by curiosity or desperation, only to find themselves ensnared by the camp's insidious grasp. The cycle of fear and suffering continued as the camp fed off the anguish of those who dare to defy its rules. The rules remained posted at the entrance, a grim reminder of the camp's dark power. They were faded and worn, but their message was clear. Read the rules before working in this camp, a directive that carried with it the weight of countless unspoken horrors. The camp stood as a testament to the darkness that could lie beneath even the most idyllic of facades. It was a place where the innocent were drawn into a nightmarish existence, their lives consumed by a malevolent force that thrived on their suffering. Emily's story became a chilling reminder of the camp's true nature. Her name was whispered among those who knew the truth, a ghostly echo of a past that refused to be forgotten. The camp had claimed her, but her legacy lived on as a warning to others. The forest surrounding the camp grew denser, its shadows darker, as if the land itself had become complicit in the camp's dark deeds. It was a place that seemed to shift and change, its boundaries ever expanding as it sought new victims to ensnare. Those who had once worked at the camp spoke of a pervasive sense of dread, of an ever-present darkness that seemed to seep into their very souls. They spoke of the watchers and the sacrifices, of a place where the rules were not just guidelines, but chains that bound them to an eternal nightmare. The camp's presence lingered, a dark stain on the landscape that could not be erased. It was a place where fear and suffering were woven into the very fabric of reality, a place that thrived on the anguish of those who dared to enter its domain. And so the camp remained a chilling testament to the power of darkness and the price of ignoring its warnings. The rules, though faded and worn, continued to serve as a grim reminder of the horrors that awaited those who venture to close. For in this place the rules were not just to be read, they were to be obeyed, or else face the consequences of their defiance. Until next time, thank you.